Hello everyone, my name is Novariza Salsabila and here I will present my book report. So the book I will report today is The Nickel Boys and here's the book's details. The title is The Nickel Boys and author is Carlson Whitehead. It was published first in 2019 and the number of pages of this novel is 224 with difficulty 7 for me because there is so much hard vocabulary and I need about 14 to 15 hours to finish this novel, and because the setting was in the past, it is hard for me to imagine it. And types of book is fictional historical novel. Next is retell. I will retell you guys about what is going on this book. So The Nickel Boys is a fictional history novel written by Carlson Whitehead. It used a back and forth plot between the 1960s and the 2010. It tells the story of Elwood Curtis, a Negro boy who spent the childhood time beyond what everyone can imagine. Elwood Curtis lived with his grandmother after his parents left him, and he lived in Frenchtown, Tallahassee, around 1960s. The main setting was at the Nickel Reform School. Nickel Reform School actually was a real, and with the name Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys, or AGDS. It built in 1899 and operated from 1900 until 2011. Next is prologue. The prologue introduced Elwood Curtis as an African businessman in New York City. He watched the news about a reform school in Florida, where the university students found a secret graveyard near the school. Next is part 1, Elwood Curtis' early childhood. Also, this book is divided into 3 parts, which is part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 1 is where the author tells about the childhood of Elwood Curtis. He is raised by a stricken grandmother who never let him listen to any music at the time. That made him grow up only listening to Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches. The era of his childhood was when African American slavery existed. There is no equality between black and white people. But Elwood is such a positive-minded boy. He always thought that there would be a change in the world. There will be a change in the future, and he will be a part of that transformation. And to reach his dream of bringing peace among races, he always took care of his education. Although he cannot go to the same school with white people, he maximized his chance to went to Brown 5 Bird of Education. He also worked at Marconi's Tobacco and Cigars. In his junior year at school, he met Mr. Hill, his historical teacher. Elwood is a lot smarter among his classmates. That is why Mr. Hill then offered Elwood to try a free college classes program for a semester. Since learning in college was always be his dream, Elwood accepted the offer. Next is part 2, bad luck. The college was 7 miles from Tallahassee. He rode with a black man named Rodney. Halfway through, bad luck blasted all his dream. Elwood got carried by the police. Turned out, Rodney has stolen the car, and Elwood got accused because he was with Rodney. The judge then sentenced him to go to the Nickel Reform School. Before he went to the Nickel Reform School, he was get back home for 3 days, and there is emotional between his grandmother and him. Elwood then go to the Nickel, and he picked up by the houseman of the Nickel. Elwood was amazed of Nickel at first. There was a football field a swimming pool, and a beautiful polished building. But he was yet to know how cruel those beauties are. And the houseman escorted him to the basement room with other kids to take their uniforms. After getting a uniform, the houseman divided the kids into two categories, which is the white kids and the black kids. The white kids were directed to a downhill building, while the colored kids or black kids went to an uphill building, or it named Cleveland Dormitory. In there, Elwood met with Desmond. Their beds were side by side, so the head of the building, which is Mr. Blakely, asked Desmond to help Elwood. The kids in the nickel were not as bad as Elwood's imagination, yet he still silently cried himself to sleep. His first day at night at nickel school shocked him. The book in that school was elementary materials, while Elwood himself is a smart kid, so it is annoying him. So he went to his teacher and asked about more advanced book for him. And after school, he went to the lime fields, helped the ground crew with Desmond. Desmond told him the way to graduate from nickel is to control himself, not to make any trouble, and to collect merits as soon as possible. Thus, his rank would up rapidly. The nickel had a rank system, which is from group to explorer to pioneer to IC, and only by getting an IC, and then someone could graduate. Next, Elwood met someone at the dining room. It is Turner, a boy that is so innocent. Then Turner later will be his best friend. One day, he found Tulis and a chap. A chap is a called name for a smaller boy in the nickel. When he went to toilet, he intervened and got punched by the bully. And it led him to a more serious problem, which is when around midnight, the superintendent named Spencer came after him and the other three kids. They were taken to the building. The kids called it the White House because its color, and the white boys called it Ice Cream Factory because after they got out from there, their skin gets so much color. And then next is one by one was taken into the spirit cell room and whipped relentlessly by Black Beauty. Elwood passed out when he got beaten and ended up in Nichols Hospital for about 2 weeks. Turner then came to the hospital. He ate soap powder to get sick to meet Elwood. From then, the two became closer and always be together since then. Next, part 3, back and forth. Why is it back and forth? Because from this part, from the chapter 11, the plot was back to 1916 and forth to 2010. Each chapter, like chapter 11 is 96 and the next chapter will be the future. So here I summarize to the present and the past. First, the present. Present Elwood lived in the slum area of New York City, between the pile of trash. He already got a girlfriend and started his business, a moving company, and he named it as Moving. After several days, Elwood just realized that he was named his company after the highest rank in nickel. Years later, he married a woman named Millie, and his moving company developed rapidly. He is a success businessman by then. And there, he has a chance to meet with someone from nickel school, and he realized that he is very lucky to have a normal life after got out from there, while the other kids do not have that. They cannot be a normal after what traumatized them from nickel. And next is the pastime. There will be a regular state inspection, and Elwood, with his cleverness, wrote a document about Nico's abuses and planned to give it to one of the inspector there. And so it happened, but nothing changed. Instead, Superintendent Spencer and his men brought him to the White House to get beaten. And after he got beaten, then they sent Elwood to the secret cell in the third floor of Clefman Dormitory. He stayed there for about 3 weeks before Turner appeared and urged Elwood to leave Nickel because Turner got information that Spencer would take Elwood out back. Take out back in the Nickel vocabulary is murdering silently. Next is the attempt of run away from Nickel. The two, Turner and Elwood, married to the town they used to work at during their time in community service. They rode their bikes to the Tallahassee, but before reaching the next town, Spencer and his men managed to hunt them. They left their bikes and started to run through the pasture fields. Spencer and his men cocked their gun. The stooge shot Turner but missed. Turner looked through his shoulder to see Elwood run with his legs scars widen up. Not so long, Spencer succeeded in shooting Elwood's arm. He collapsed above dense weeds. Turner couldn't stop. He kept running, leaving Elwood behind. The epilogue. Turner used Elwood's name after his death. Turner in the present time checked for his flight to Tallahassee. He finally faced his past after he saw the news about the nickel, and Turner wanted to share his story with Elwood, their journey together. Turner used Elwood's name to honor his friend. He changed his name to live for him. Turner believed that this was the life Elwood always yearned for. The last scene was when Turner checked into his hotel in Tallahassee, ordered a burger in the restaurant of the hotel, and little did he know, the place he sat right now was used to be little Elwood's place while waiting for his grandma to work. Next is general opinion. My first and general opinion of this book is phenomenal. I couldn't close my mouth once I learned that the adult Elwood is Turner. This plot twist made a remarkable ending for the whole book. Other than that, I could feel every emotion the character felt because Whitehead has expressed it thoroughly using his words. This book also makes me realize that the environment can change one's mindset. Elwood used to be a positive-minded boy. He always cheers his days, but after getting into nickel, he changed slowly. Next is best love. What I love the most from this book. First is, of course, is plot twist. The storyline is overall superb. I love how the story developed from Elwood's childhood until the end of his life, including how neat the author wrote the plot twist. It makes me have no idea that the adult Elwood I known since the prologue was Turner. Second is writing style. I am amazed at the way Whitehead illustrated all the setting in this book. It succeeds in bringing me back to Florida in the 1960s. Next is Lives Like. What I like the least from this novel is first too real. The downside of how beautiful the setting is written is something it is too hard for me to imagine, since I have no idea how it was there back then, and they are too realistic for me. Second is difficult words. Furthermore, there are too many difficult words in this book, which distracted me because I have to open and reopen my dictionary while I read. Third is monotone. I also don't like that the emotion through whole book is constantly tense. I know I can feel whole emotion the character felt, but it is monotone. The only time Elwood felt happy were in the demonstration when he protested the movie theater with his fellow black people, and when he finally went to summer college. Only those two uh, experienced. The other is too tense and sad. That's why I don't like it. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you. I hope you learned something new. Bye bye.